These are not Chris Reeve knives. These are Chris Reeve knives. So this is the Chris Reeve knife that started it for me. I wasn't sure when I started moving into higher end knives. Did I want a to spend at the time it was $375. This is a Sabenza 31 small. And I was like, that's an awful lot to spend. Well, uh, yeah, a little bit money later, I spent a little bit more than that. But when I first picked this up, I was like, oh my gosh, it doesn't have all the action that ball bearing knives do, etc., etc. Because I had pretty much always used Spyderco knives and then Kershaw's for, I don't know, 13 years. And when I finally, like I said, stepped up to a Chris Reeve, I was like, I didn't get it at first, but then once it starts to wear in, the washers get a little bit looser, a little bit smoother, and you just realize it's perfect. I mean, literally after you use the knife, everything about it works exactly as a functional tool. Everything works exactly as it did on the very first day you used it, but it's just a little bit more satisfying. So this is just a small Sabenza with the regular drop point blade, and it's the knife that started it all. So as far as the state of my collection goes, this is a user knife that I definitely use. One of the things you can see, and it was kind of one of my bitches and moans about this knife, was that I don't even know if that's showing up. I don't know my readers on. Sorry, but that the where the lanyard hooks on just rubs up against the blade. So in your pocket, in use, in actual or in your pocket specifically, that thing just rubs up against there and tears. A lot of people take that out. I don't know. I want to go ahead and use the knife as it's shipped, especially when I'm going to go ahead and do a review. Other than that, oh yeah, one last thing. I did have to replace the clip on this thing. The large models, whether it be the Inkosi or the Sabenza, if you take a look at where the clip falls, that little protrusion there, it falls right in the middle of the void of the hand, and it doesn't. There's no problems on the large models, but on the small model of the Sabenza, and this is probably true with the Inkosi and otherwise, the in hand, it because of the shorter length of it, it was going right into the middle finger, or just right behind there, right behind that. I guess what metacarpal is, and just digging in, and I had to replace that clip. So that was definitely one of the cons of this knife. But with that, this is Rip's Garage Tech. It looks sharp too. The blue color matches. It's a great one. This is the knife that I always take out whenever I'm going out to a fancy dinner. It just is. If I have to pull it out, this is one that I don't mind if I have to cut something because it's a really crappy steak knife. The small Sabenza. The next knife that I got from Chris Reeve was the Inkosi. And having watched, I always, whenever I can, tend to watch reviews before I buy a knife, and usually a lot of them, because I kind of want to know what are the goods and the bads that other people see, and is that going to impact me? Does it not? Maybe other people have a different concept of what a really tight or loose detent is. Left-handed capability is not a huge consideration, but I did prefer that on the Inkosi over the Sabenza. The Sabenza definitely has a big cutout for the right hand, but you almost have to buy a left-handed Sabenza if you want really left-handed ambidexterity. And albeit there is no clip mounting for left-handed on the Inkosi, it's definitely more usable just in a spot moment for myself, left-handed. I like the fact that it was a little bit thicker blade stock. Everything about it, I kind of still do. From a user perspective, I prefer the jimping on this one over the Sabenza, the Inkosi. And I thought, you know what? I think a really good blade shape is the sheep's foot. They call it the Insingo, but it's kind of like, it just has a swedged sheep's foot kind of there, so there's a little swedge on top. But for me, this is like almost the perfect user. The only thing that's not perfect about this one is that it is a little bit thin of a frame, and so it's not much thicker than the small one. And what I really did probably want in the end was an Inkosi that had micarta to help widen it. So of course I had to get a different blade shape, and so this is my user sheep's foot. Oh, I did want to show one last thing on the sheep's foot. Of the first three knives that I showed, one that it's kind of a competitor for me. I got this MSI because I made it that, I don't want to beat that up if I'm underneath the car working on that. But I do like that blade shape for whatever reason. It works well when you're working on cars. I don't know why. I kind of do know why, but that's just a different conversation. But the MSI, I'll be doing this review sometime soon. It worked really well, but it failed one test, and so I'll definitely be moving that one along for a very good price for anybody that wants it. Just because in the end I'm not going to use that. I'm always going to choose this Cozy over it. But yeah, so really prefer that sheep's foot blade over the Microtech one. So move forward to the Tonto blade. And this is actually not a safe queen. I just did recently a video on safe queens, and maybe I'll link that up there. But this is actually not a safe queen, but I haven't used it. Primarily because I've been using other Tontos. Also, this particular Tonto, the front leading edge, is sharpened. So that's kind of good for cutting versus scraping. And a lot of times, I got to be honest, I use my Tonto blades for scraping stuff off of glass and other surfaces. And this one being actually very sharp. This one's actually quite sharp edge with that a little bit more refined bevel there. Oops, let's see if I can get that in. Yeah, it definitely has a more refined bevel. It was one that I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to use a quote-unquote user. And the two users I use, no surprise, the kind of person that elevated the American Tonto is these cold steels. This is the Airlight, and this one definitely is, I won't say dull, but I mean I can peel off skin there, but it's not going to break skin. So this is almost a perfect edge for. Oh, I'm gonna have to move that out. That's almost a perfect edge for scraping tasks, and so that's why I don't use that as much. And if I actually need a heavier duty Tonto where I'm going to need to be stabbing in and relying on that sharp tip or that powerful tip, it's going to be the 80-10 with this new one. Both of these knives, the cold steels are 80 or OS 10A, and with this is a great beater and user. By the way, I'll link another video, the Nathan's knives. I don't know if they're still available. Maybe I won't if they're not available, but maybe he'll make some more. Nathan's Knives made some custom 80-10 scales, and they're really great. Natural micarta. So yeah, the Nkosi being my kind of preferred user, feel in hand, and especially with this micarta, very, very nice. Yeah, I just like it a lot. Like I said, also I think it has bigger washers than the Sebenza. Not I think, I know it does, because I can see them when I've watched disassemblies. It's also easier to disassemble and re-put back together. I don't like to spend a whole lot of time modding. I actually kind of tend to just like to use knives and do other stuff. Get outdoors, ride bikes, camp, that sort of thing. So the last one, which did appear in my Grail knives or Safe Queens, is the Sebenza with the double lug. I won't even go over this. I'll just refer you to watching that one. This is a very pricey knife. And we'll talk a little bit about the prices at the end. But yeah, this one for me was, like I said, it just met everything that I wanted on it, so I went for it. But it was $800. And that, of course, all the new ones are 31s. This is the Nkosi, and that one was with the micarta was 600 even with the new pricing. No, I got this in just before the new pricing. This was 550, and then this one was 425, I want to say, without any fancy accoutrements. And then you had the $375 Sebenza. So that's kind of my Chris Reeve collection, and definitely they're some of the best and classiest user knives. They've got great service if you need to have the spa services done on them. It's really tough to find a lot of flaw in them. Some people might just not like the action and want the free swinging bearings. But for user knives, these are great, and this is my collection.